Well, hello again and welcome to Waters and Stanton's video channel. Today I want to talk about mobile HF antennas and a simple installation that will enable you to try out HF mobile. Now, we are at the current point, it's the low point in the sunspot cycle. So it may not be the most obvious thing to do to go HF mobile, but the bands are still open, and I was in conversation recently with a couple of hams who were thinking about HF mobile operation, but the real problem they had was the antennas. So let's have a look at the antenna options and the way to go if you're starting out on HF mobile. The simplest option is to go for a single band antenna. The reason being that it keeps the cost down, and my experience is that when you go HF mobile you tend to just operate on one or two particular bands. Now, the band choices are at the moment dictated by the sunspot cycle. I think we can write off 10 metres and 15 metres for most people. The bands that really carry the traffic at the moment are 20 metres and 40 metres, so they're the two bands that I would recommend you start with. No particular preference really. 40 metres is open all day and all night, generally speaking. 20 metres tends to be a daylight band at the moment. There is some activity during the evening time, but primarily it tends to be currently a daytime band. So how do we mount the antenna, and where do we mount it on the car? Well, the modern car unfortunately has restricted the choices where you can put the antenna. The popular place to put an antenna at the moment, certainly for VHF, is the hatchback, because the hatch mount is quite a convenient mount. It fits on the hatchback of most cars, and it's got a little tiny grub screw which designed to penetrate the paintwork. When you clamp it onto the hatchback, the underside of that mount, which has got a little grub screw, that is designed to pierce the paintwork. It's only a little pinprick, so it doesn't really matter, but that metal connection, earth connection, is really important, and more so on HF than it is on VHF. Provided that your car has got a metal hatchback, then my experience is that there will be enough metal there to permit operation on 20 metres and in many occasions on 40 metres. The real no-no is don't try and mount an HF antenna on a roof rack, because there's just not enough metal there to give successful operation, and you're likely to run into trouble as well if you try a gutter mount, because the gutter itself may or may not be adequately bonded to the metalwork of the car. You certainly don't want to start drilling holes or anything like that. You want to go for a simple method of operation. The other method, of course, is to use a magnetic mount. Now, you can't use a single magnetic mount because there's just not enough capacity. But if you go for one of these three-legged, three-way magnetic mounts, they will provide more than enough capacity to the roof of the vehicle to give a good earth. And I've used a three-way mag mount many times, very successful. It's not going to move on the car. It's going to be quite firm. In fact, one tip about getting the three-way mag mount off the car, when I first put one on the car, I couldn't get the wretched thing off. What you need to do is to put an aerial onto the magnetic mount and then use the base of the aerial as a lever, and then you can take the magnetic mount off the car. Perhaps one of the things I should just cover, which I can imagine people are thinking about, is if you use a magnetic mount, where is the earth connection? Because there is no DC earth between the magnetic mount and the vehicle. Well, the answer is we are primarily concerned with the RF earth, and because a three-legged magnetic mount provides quite a large capacity, there is an RF earth between the capacity formed from the magnetic mount and the body of the car. and this is fine for 7 megs upwards. In fact, probably okay for 3.5 megahertz. It really depends on the magnetic mount and the thickness of the paintwork, but generally speaking, from 80 meters upwards, you'll probably get enough capacity there to give a decent RF earth. So that's the secret of how we get an earth with a magnetic mount which has no DC connection with the body of the car. So I hope that explains that. Now, if by chance you find that you have a VSWR that you can't get down to a reasonable level, it's almost certainly due to the lack of a decent earth on the car. I would say in 95% of the time, when you can't get a decent SWR, it's an earth problem. It's highly unlikely to be the antenna problem, particularly if you're buying a commercial antenna. It's likely to be an earth problem. And as I say, you may find that the hatch back mount, there's just not enough metalwork there, so you would then probably have to go for a magnetic mount. Now, one other thing I would say is that I think mobile operation really should be confined to stationary, in other words, when you park up. I wouldn't recommend HF mobile on the move, because I think that it requires too much concentration. Unlike VHF mobile, where you're switching channels, on HF you need to tune around, you need to check the band, sort of look for stations up and down the band. I don't think that's conducive to mobile operation on the move. That's my personal opinion, but I would advocate operating mobile when you're parked up. As to the choice of antenna, well, the range I would recommend are the Diamond range of antennas made by Diamond in Japan. They produce an excellent range of HF mobile whips. They're all single band. They are very easy to install because they've got a PL259 connector, so it's highly likely that you can take off your existing VHF antenna and put on one of these HF models. And they've got a very convenient way of adjustment, because with a HF antenna, you're highly likely to need to be able to move around the band a bit, because the antenna will be fairly narrow banded, so you'd need to decide whereabouts in the band you're going to operate. Say you're going to, on 20 meters, you want to tune it for around about 14.2 megahertz. There is like sort of a clutch arrangement on these antennas, and you can actually very easily make some fine adjustments to the antenna. Anyway, I did do a video some while back, and I've extracted the bit that shows you the Diamond antenna in particular. So let's take a look at this. Well, let's get a bit closer. As you can see, the antenna comprises two parts. We've got the base of the whip here, and the actual loading and matching coil. This coil is terminated in a PL259, so it fits very easily into standard SO239 mobile base, same sort of base that you might use for VHF and UHF mobile antennas. So to connect the base to the whip, we just insert the whip and screw it home, just like that. Now, the nice feature of this antenna is that it's got a simple clutch arrangement here, which is threaded, and if you want to adjust the antenna, you just pull it out or push it back in, and then rotate that clutch arrangement by hand. It makes a really tight connection there. The actual whip itself is very flexible, as you can see. It's fiberglass with a copper insert, so it's pretty well indestructible. Antenna length assembled is about probably just over a metre long on this one. This is actually a 10 metre model. So that's your Diamond antenna. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video and you found it helpful and useful. If you enjoyed this video, then please press subscribe. We will continue to bring you videos on various topics, and if you've got any particular things you'd like us to talk about, then please let us know. In the meantime, enjoy your ham radio.